So this next story, I think this came to us via email as well from someone who has, and I wanted to do this because we hear too often about people slagging Canada, right? It's not the country it was. It's not as good, and on and on. Not everybody, but we've heard enough of people doing that.
Certainly these days,
Yeah,
yeah.
and the story from this particular, you're going to meet him or her in just a second, is that they have traveled to 26 countries around the
That's
world.
cool.
And the message is, you know what? Canada's still the best place anywhere. I love that message. So let's find out more. Alana Best is an author and world traveler. She's from BC, and she's on the line right now. Alana, thanks for being here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I want to know what compelled you to, at the end of all this travel, simply look back and go, you know what? The country we live in, still pretty amazing place.
I have lived across Canada. So my husband lived in Montreal for 8 years. I lived in Saint-Anne-des-Monts, just north of Gaspé for a little while. I've lived in Toronto, Saskatchewan, Winnipeg, Victoria. So we have a very good idea of the beauty and wonderful aspects and diversity that is Canada. And I also know what it's like to fall in love with a place and move. So I thought perhaps we would travel the world, see these wonderful different places and want to move. And in the end, that just wasn't the case. There's so much that Canada has to offer. And of course, as you say, there's, things and room for improvement always in every society, but we truly are very fortunate.
I want to ask you about what motivated you to do this trip and visit the 26 countries, but I feel like first I need to know in all of your travels, if Canada was, home sweet home, what was the runner-up of all the places you visited? Was there a place where you're like, that would be my second choice?
Yeah, I think Tuscany came pretty close.
Okay.
I think it's just a lifestyle. I think rural in sort of some of the areas in Italy as well as France, they have this way of just living life to such a beautiful extent. So going for picnics, enjoying really good wine, lovely food, beautiful cultures, rich history. And it just seemed like such an easy, lovely way to enjoy every small beauty of life.
But, to your point earlier, the idea of I'm going to look around, we're going to travel around, I'm sure we'll be able to find a place that's great. And then at the end of it all, be able to say, you know what, we've been to all these places and been to all these countries. And I think I'm not sure that these words you would have used, but the idea that, you know what, after all this, Canada is still the best place. And I just wondered, did that happen to you midway through this? Or did you, when you were done this traveling, you just sat back and thought, you know what, after all these places we've been to, this is what I need to say?
Yeah, it was towards the end of the trip where it really solidified for me. I think I was always in the lookout for it, thinking about it as we were traveling around. And in the end, I ended up getting a tattoo to sort of symbolize home, because that's where I felt the most rooted and wanted to be. And the year really came back to me and said, I want to be in Canada. I will always adventure. I will always explore. I will always travel. There is no perfect place in the world, but this is the best place for me and my family and to raise my children.
What's the tattoo?
So it's a beautiful oak tree on my back.
Oh, lovely.
Oh.
Okay, so the book is called Around the World in Black and White, Traveling as a Biracial Blended Family. What made you want to do this trip to 26 different countries?
I feel I'm quite a spirited, courageous, fun, adventurous person. So is my husband. We worked for the public service at the time that had an offering that you could put a percentage of your salary away and take some time off. So we did that for 4 years. We also wanted to grow our family. We had a child. So we took our, at the time, 5-week-old baby with us, used our wonderful Canadian maternity and parental leave as part of that ability to travel. And we took off with our baby and our 10-year-old at the time. And really, it's multiple fold. Like, we only have one life. Live it to the fullest extent as humanly possible. It is such a gift to yourselves and your family to bond and to be together in that period of, for that period of time. It's a gift to your children. I think it's so important to, root them, but also give them wings and let them know that the world is their oyster. And traveling is probably the most wonderful thing I can think of to do, to experience all that this world has to offer.
Mm-hmm.
So Natasha asked you about, number 2, you said Tuscany, France. I get that if you've ever been. I mean, it's gorgeous country.
For sure.
But were there any disappointments along the way, places you thought would be really, really something like special and turned out not to be what you had
Well,
thought?
and can I add to that? How did traveling as a biracial family factor in?
Yeah, so that has been the real opener and the difference. So I had, for example, traveled to Asia on my own previously with some of my siblings. I'm white. My partner is Black. And going there as a white person is very different than going there as a Black person. That we encountered a lot of racism, a lot of incidents happened, and incidences happened all over and have also happened in our own backyard. So I want to be clear, I'm not pointing fingers specifically. But it does narrow or change, the way you travel, because the way the world sees us is very different. And the way that we are treated along those travels is different. And so therefore, also, if we are thinking about living somewhere, the factor and the lenses that you need to put onto that are different. So I think for me, it was a real exposure and awakening to white privilege in a way that you rarely get unless you spend 24 hours a day for an entire year traveling with a person of color. And just the fact that we live our lives and walk through this world in a very different ways.
Okay, so that handles the biracial part of this. I want to go back to what I had asked about places you went that you were disappointed that you expected to find one way and not another. No, I'm not talking about the biracial element. I mean, in terms of beauty or places that you thought, oh my God, I've seen pictures of this place, but it's not like what I thought it was. Did you run into that at all? Did you encounter that?
Yes, we definitely encountered that. I would say, with Asia, definitely, I didn't expect the amount of, overt racism that was experienced by my husband. I would say Egypt was an incredible place to visit for the monuments and everything that was there. But I was also taken aback by, the misogyny and some of the things that were experienced there. And I was also surprised when we would go to other places where I assumed that we would not experience anything, such as, France. And then, we'd have security guards trailing us, for example. So I think that we had many things where we thought, surely it wouldn't happen in Victoria or in France and some of these other places, and it still did. So that some of those surprised me.
I was going to ask you what the most beautiful place you visited was. Is there one particular place that stands out?
Well, Canada.
Other than Canada?
South Africa and Kenya, I would have to say, are up there with some of my most beautiful landscapes. You can't beat the wildlife there. Cape Town, South Africa, is a coastal town, very kind of similar West Coast type feel to Victoria, is absolutely stunning.
Okay. Quite the time. I wonder, too, what your kids at the end of all this thought.
This is always the worry, right? You bring a 10-year-old on a great adventure and you pray that they absorb some of it. And I think that she did, and she still is able to speak to, when she's learning in class about World War II, she has been to Poland, she's seen Auschwitz. So some of those things really resonated and stuck with her. I also think a teenage girl, now that she is, doesn't just view the world and, all of the drama that is high school, and the world is a bigger place.
Isn't that interesting?
Cool.
And now that we have this book as a bit of a legacy, I'm also hoping that they will go back to some of the places they got to experience at a young age.
Again, the book is called Around the World in Black and White, Traveling with a Biracial Blended Family. You can find it on Amazon. Any future travels planned?
Always. We're planning on going to Monaco in October to celebrate a friend's 50th birthday.
Good for you. Boy, are you lucky. Listen, thank you so much. Great story, too. And maybe for people who do want to read up, they can check out the book. ALANA Best. ALANA, thanks so much for your time today.
I appreciate you.